let's get your thoughts then on the ECB. The ECB's done on autopilot for 2 years. Would you concur?
Absolutely. This is not an autopilot meeting. I'm going the other way. I'm going to say this is the most important meeting for the ECB this year. And the press conference is where we get to see Lagarde in her debut as leader. I'm expecting Matt to be up there asking questions. What's her reaction function? How does she define price stability? What's the efficacy of balance sheet expansion or cutting rates into more negative territory? Is she a take whatever it needs kind of person? Do what it takes.
Yes.
There's a lot of questions that investors need answered.
Well, Matt, there you go. Bob just giving you a nice rundown of all the questions that you should ask of Christine Lagarde when you're in Frankfurt next week.
I'm very happy to have him do a little bit of the work for me, and I'm not sure she's going to be as forthright as we would all hope. But the question, I think, about the efficacy of cuts, Bob, how do you think that plays out? Because everybody and his mother seems to think central banks are pretty much out of dry powder here, unless you ask a central banker, right? How do you think this plays out as far as the ECB continuing to hold deep into negative territory and continuing to be a big player in the bond market?
Well, I think it will continue. I think there are some worrisome bits of data coming out of Germany. That's a concern. When you look at inflation, it's nowhere near the 2% target. I wonder if they still have a 2% target. If they do, then they'll need to cut rates further into negative territory. They'll have to push people out into taking money out of financial assets and using them more productively in the real economy, and then pushing up activity and creating inflation.
Is the problem, though, Bob, that there are questions as to whether that really works in Germany, where maybe it just encourages people to save more?
Well, it's true, and that's the big question. This is the counterfactual. How do you know if they hadn't done these things?
They would have saved even more.
Yeah, you might be in a severe recession,
yes,
and inflation may actually be deflation.
Yeah.
What do you think, well, how low do you think then we see rates go? Right now we're at negative 30 basis points basically on bunds. We were down at negative 80, so we've come back a little bit from that. Do you think we see another dip lower?
I do. I think if there are problems on the trade front, problems with Brexit, or they start to see inflation expectations really dive, then I want to know, is this the kind of thing Lagarde will respond to? Will she cut rates another 25 basis points? I think so. Will they double the size of the balance sheet expansion from 20 to 40 billion euros a month? I think so. But then I think they have to send a message. At some point, they're done. It's up to the fiscal side. They're basically willing to underwrite some sort of fiscal stimulus over to you, Brussels. This is what I want to hear from her.
And why do you not think it's the time to do that now? Because that sounds like something that maybe she could open her presidency of the ECB with that kind of approach.
Well, I hope she does. She has the background coming from the IMF. She knows the importance of monetary policy working with the fiscal side. I think there are structural problems across Europe. First of all, we don't know the impact of Brexit. Secondly, we've just come out of a regime of 10 years where Brussels has forced fiscal austerity on most of the European economies in exchange for being able to underwrite some of the debt buildup. And I think these are some of the problems. Then you get to Germany, and there are debt breaks in place in their constitution. Those have to be changed. So it's not quite as easy as just waving a magic wand or spreading pixie dust out there. But I think she's the right person in the right position to start the correct dialogue going forward.